In this episode, I'm going to take a first look at work-life balance. I'm going to help you recognise imbalance in your own work and in your life outside work and look at what effect that might be having. I'm also going to share my own quick fix for recharging. So let's go. Hello and welcome. I'm James Brown. I'm a coach-trained business psychologist and I've worked for a long time in senior leadership. Unhappy workplaces can be unproductive and cost businesses money, not to mention the damage they can do to people's health and well-being. Happy workplaces, however, can make great things happen, and that's what this channel is all about. Work-life balance is a big topic, and there are as many myths and misconceptions about it as there are truths and useful insights. Because it's such a big topic, I'm going to break it into sections. In part 1, which is this video, I'm going to cover some of the less obvious signs that you may have an imbalance. And even though the focus of this video is going to be on some of the weaker signals and early signs of imbalance, it's worth spending just a little bit of time stating the more obvious signs, just for the record. And they're things like taking time off work with stress, trouble getting to sleep or getting a good night's sleep, feelings of hopelessness and desperation and depression, and anxiety about going to work, about leaving work at a reasonable time, or even about going or leaving home. If you're experiencing any of these things, it's worth thinking about seeking out some professional help, and that professional help might buy you some time to reevaluate your priorities and decide on a course of action. So there are some other obvious signs of imbalance which probably don't need such a radical intervention, but I think which are no less important. They're things like feeling bored or under-challenged at work, regularly eating 2 or more meals at work, a day, that is, and not having the time to pursue leisure activities, and only spending short periods of time with your family and loved ones, or actually not seeing them at all for periods of time. So much for the more obvious signs, but what about the weaker signs of imbalance? And what can the consequences of that imbalance be? And what can you do about it? So I'm going to share one thing I do as a quick fix for imbalance later on in this video. But first, let's look at some of the weaker signals of imbalance. Now, I've got a fondness for the pithiness of quotations, and some of the pithiest come from Albert Einstein. And he says, if A is success in life, then A equals X plus Y plus Z, where X is work, Y is play, and Z is keeping your mouth shut. Now, I'm sure we can all think of situations when we would have done well to keep our mouths shut. And of course, we all define success in different ways. But Einstein uses humour here to hint at a troubling undercurrent. Keeping our mouths shut is popular because we're all complicit in the productivity myth. The myth that working longer hours produces more and or better work. So the first way I want to cover of recognising you have imbalance is, are you keeping your mouth shut about it? You may have known that your work and your life are out of balance for some time, but you haven't acknowledged it to yourself. If that's the case, then imbalance is probably a feeling for you right now. Maybe it's a feeling that's been tugging at the back of your mind for quite a while. Maybe you've acknowledged it to yourself, but not to your loved ones. I wonder how they're feeling about it. Maybe they've said something about it, or maybe they're expressing something about it in the way they behave. It may be easier to spot if you've got a young family. Do you frequently miss your children's bedtime, or spend days away from home? Children have a knack of saying things adults can find quite difficult. How about cooking? Do you have time to cook a hot meal when you get home? Do you feel like cooking a hot meal when you get home? Do you have enough time to unwind from the day before going to bed? Do you have good quality conversations with your partner and your friends? If the answer to any of these questions tends to be no, then maybe you've got an imbalance you're keeping quiet about. So are you keeping quiet about the imbalance in your life? Be honest with yourself. Recently, I realised I'd been sitting at my desk for 3 days solid and hardly moved at all for those 3 days. My mind felt cluttered, I'd stopped being productive, and I felt physically tense in my shoulders, my neck and my calves. So I stopped what I was doing, left the office, got in the car and went in search of a remedy. A quick fix that works for me is going for a walk in the countryside, and it works at a number of different levels. First of all, it's exercise, and it physically gets blood and lymphatic fluid moving around your body. It changes your focus, quite literally, from the focus of a computer screen to the horizon, and that gives you a different perspective. It exposes you to, reconnects you with the natural world, its sights, its sounds, its smells, its feelings, and it allows you to connect with something more fundamental and naturally balanced. And because of that, it makes you feel differently, physically and emotionally. And it exposes you to an element of unpredictability, of dynamism. It stimulates a different way of thinking by removing you from the static environment of the office. Depending on where you choose to walk, you may also get some benefit from the solitude, walking alone and having time to reflect uninterrupted and without any expectations of those around you. Or, if you choose to walk somewhere that's quite popular, maybe you'll bump into other walkers and be able to connect with other people that are walking, and you know you share an interest in that. So you're freed up from expectations by getting out into the countryside. And I wouldn't have gone for this walk and experienced the benefits it brought without breaking the silence I was keeping with myself about the imbalance that I was experiencing. So ask yourself the questions and be honest with yourself about the level of balance in your life. So what are the consequences of imbalance? Well, having poor work-life balance, however that manifests itself, can cause stress, and stress is strongly linked to a range of psychological and physiological disorders. If your work is a constant drain, you may start experiencing feelings of anxiety or panic. You may start experiencing frequent dark thoughts or patterns of thoughts that develop into negative self-talk, and that can lead to feelings of depression. Stress is linked to high blood pressure, coronary heart disease and a range of other disorders. So getting your work-life balance in order is going to at least prevent some of these things from becoming likely for you. So let's look at the next weak signal of recognising imbalance, and that's a relatively recent phenomenon. So the next weak signal that shows us we've got a work-life imbalance is this. Are you living your life through a screen? A great many jobs involve working at a computer terminal or a laptop. We spend a lot of our working lives communicating through email and instant messaging. We video conference, we research information on the internet, and we edit documents and spreadsheets and presentations. But more and more, our break time is spent looking at a screen as well, as we check our social media accounts, our personal emails, we watch videos, and we play games. And even when we go on a trip somewhere, we increasingly experience it through the screen of our smartphones, as we try to capture photos we never really look at, to remind us of an experience we never really had, because we witnessed the whole thing on a rectangular screen no bigger than the size of the palm of your hand. Over the next week or so, just try to notice how much of your life you're living through a screen. Maybe run some experiments with yourself by leaving your phone behind, or at least leaving it in your pocket or your bag. And a good way of combining mindfulness with reducing screen time is the next time you find yourself somewhere inspiring, try not to reach for the camera on your phone. Instead, try to soak up the moment by noticing details in what you can see, what you can hear, and how you can feel. Notice the smells and the temperature, the physical sensation on your skin. Take a multisensory snapshot of your whole experience. So the third and final weak signal that you may have imbalance in your work and your life takes us in a different direction entirely. And it's this. How well are you connected to your sense of purpose? The top-ranked YouTube video on this topic was recorded quite a few years ago. It's a TED Talk by Nigel Marsh, and it's great, and I encourage you to watch it. One of his observations is this: that people work long, hard hours at jobs they hate to earn money, to buy things they don't need, to impress people they don't like. So ask yourself this question: what are you doing it all for? Let's go back to Einstein for a moment, because he uses the word success. So I wonder, what did the word success conjure up for you? Was it something to do with career or money, possessions or things, personal achievements? Was it the quality of relationships or experiences? Was it living by a set of values or beliefs that you hold dear? Was it the number of Facebook likes? So take a fresh look at what you're doing it all for. What do you feel is your sense of purpose, and how well are you achieving it? Is your purpose mainly about work, or mainly about life outside work? Is your sense of purpose balanced across the whole of your life? And what does that even mean? Well, to answer that question, I'm going to turn to the celebrated psychologist and the father of positive psychology, Martin Seligman. He suggests a model for human fulfillment that's based on the acronym PERMA, P-E-R-M-A, where P is positive emotion, E is engagement, R is relationships, M is meaning, and A is accomplishment. Now, positive emotions are feelings of happiness, and that's pretty easy to understand. Engagement's a slightly more tricky concept, because it's to do with feelings of flow. And you'll know what I'm talking about if you've ever lost yourself in a moment or in a task. I play music, I play the guitar, and I find it easy to get into states of flow where you're completely lost in the moment. And one of the interesting things about flow states is that if you interrupt somebody in a flow state and ask them what they're thinking about, what they're feeling, they say nothing. They weren't feeling anything, they weren't thinking anything. It's a complete connection to the moment. So relationships, and it means all kinds of relationships: social relationships, spousal relationships, relationships with your children, with the community, social relationships with people, and at work. Meaning is what this section is all about, the sense of purpose. Accomplishments is all about achieving things that you can be proud of. So PERMA. And although purpose fits best with the meaning part of the PERMA model, it filters across to all the other domains as well. The way it fits across to the other domains of the PERMA model is, if you have a strong sense of purpose, you'll seek out the kinds of relationships that help you to feel fulfilled. With a strong sense of purpose, you'll more easily find yourself in flow states. You'll be able to achieve the things that give you satisfaction and of which you can be proud. And these things will all bring you more frequent feelings of happiness or positive emotion. So understanding your purpose and how well you're achieving it will help you to work out where your work-life balance needs attention, and I think it's likely to show you what to do about it. So try, if you can, to put aside some time to think about what you're doing it all for. What's your purpose? By putting some energy into making small changes that could make your work or your life outside work fit better with your purpose, you may find some balance being restored. In this video, we've looked at some obvious signs of work-life imbalance and 3 weaker signals that you may have work-life imbalance. Are you keeping your mouth shut about it to yourself or to those closest to you? Are you living your life through a screen? And how well connected are you to your sense of purpose? And I've suggested a number of exercises you can try. You can go back and scroll back through and find out what those exercises are. I hope you do try some of those, and I would love to hear if you do try. How do they work? Does it give you a better sense of balance? Thanks for tuning in. I hope you found this episode useful and started to find ways of recognising whether your work life is imbalanced. If you did find it useful, please click subscribe. Click on the bell icon to get notified when I upload new content to this channel. And do take a moment to look at the other videos that are up on the channel, and consider following me on Twitter as well, where I post daily themed tweets, all with the aim of making your work life happier. You can find some free resources and get in touch through my website, which is www.thehappyworkplace.co.uk. And you can also get in touch to find out how I could help your workplace become happier and more productive, or just to check availability for one-to-one coaching. Take care, and I'll see you next time.